Well, a warm welcome to you all who've joined us tonight for the Her Gyfieithu 2021. And also, there's an opportunity for us to celebrate the centenary of Pen.
This evening for the Her Gyfieithu 2021 and also to celebrate the centenary of Pen.
There is a simultaneous translation here from Welsh into English.
And you can receive that by pressing on the little globe icon at the bottom of the screen and selecting English. And then when we speak English, you will just hear our voices. And
then when we speak Welsh, you will hear the English interpretation. We have a number of speakers here tonight, several taking part, and people from more than one country. So we are extremely glad to have the company of two people in particular, that is the winner of Her Gyfieithu 2021, and also the original poet, Cymru. She offered her poetry after we went to her to ask her for poems for the Her Gyfieithu 2021. And as you know, every time with the Her Gyfieithu, there is a partnership of people coming together. The Literary Exchange Wales takes part in this competition, and also for many years now we've got literature across boundaries, and Cymdeithas Gyfieithwyr Cymru, the University of Swansea, and by now Trinity St David's University, and of course Wales Pen Cymru. And we are very grateful as well to the Welsh Arts Council for their support to the work of many of these partners to promote literary translation in Wales and to have an exchange between Wales and the world. Many of our speakers tonight represent that partnership, and also every year we choose one language or one literary and political and social context as a focus for our Her Gyfieithu. And as we plan for Her Gyfieithu 2021, we were eager to look at the Arab world, and that basically is why we turned to Samira Negrush, the poet. Says she has three languages: Arabic, French and Tamsin. That is the native language in that part of Algeria and another part of North Africa as well. So turning to Samira was an important part of what we wanted to see as an exchange between Wales and the world, and that through the medium of poetry. And this is one of the competitions for translating poetry where the combination isn't between English and Welsh. Really, this is the only competition there is to translate into Welsh from various languages across the world. So before we go any further, I just want to say one brief word on behalf of the Deputy Minister for Culture and Sports in the Welsh Government, Dawn Bowden, who wants to wish us well in the ceremony this evening, but unfortunately she cannot join us. We are grateful to her for her support for this event. So, without a competition, without an adjudicator, we cannot hold a competition. So, my first honour tonight is to introduce the adjudicator of Her Gyfieithu 2021, that is Sian Melangell David, who is well known as an author and as a poet and as a translator and as a literary adjudicator, a lecturer, and also she's an editor and a past editor of a literature periodical. So Sian, over to you.
Elin, diolch am y cyflwyniad.
Elin, thank you for that introduction. And it's wonderful to see some familiar faces here appearing before me on the screen. Good evening to you all. So, without any further ado, I'll move on to the very brief little report which I have prepared, which gives you a flavour of it's the closest thing to literature, but I also think that is also a part of the work of it as well, because I've had the experience of reading the various voices here in this competition. So here we are.
Y gerdd gyntaf I mi
Now, the first poem that I wrote by Cymru and
pwy sydd yn
Grwsia
siarad, pwy sydd yn
was
siarad.
Keep
Ond I mi
who
darllen
is
y gerdd
talking,
drwy gyfrwng
but I
cyfieithydd
first read
Marlin
it
Hacker
through
yn gyntaf.
Marlin Hacker's
Roedd mwy nag
excellent
un llais yn
translation,
siarad
and
yr un
therefore there were
pryd.
more
Roedd
than one
Ffrangeg,
voices
Algiers, y
speaking,
bar, a
Algerian
Saesneg,
French,
y cyfieithydd.
the poet,
Yn
and the
ogystal
English
â'r
of the translator,
gerddoriaeth dan
in
ddaearol
addition to
mae
the
hi'n honni sydd
underground
yn nyfnder
music, which she
barddoniaeth.
alleges is deep in
Yn
poetry.
Cipal,
In
gofynnir ac
Cipal,
atebir fel
it is
hyn,
asked,
qui es-tu?
who are you?
Une structure complexe
A complex
silence.
structure of
Pwy wyt ti?
silence.
Strwythur cymleth o dawelwch. Her y beirniad
The challenge for the adjudicator in this competition was to look at the appeal, sound, position of words, the drama of the words, and the silences in the Welsh work. It must be said that we chose 3 poems which were a huge challenge
o gyfres
of the Sis Arc de Fortune series. We asked for a translation of the first 3 poems, and they take advantage of the space between words on the page in a way that cannot flow with the same intellectual, musical message if the translator is tied slavishly to the original. We had 5 excellent translations, I'm proud to say, and they were all good in different ways, which made my job very difficult. I can say with pride, I can say with pride that we had, the variations as well amongst them. Their pen names were Adwyniad, Geryl, Cathanos, Tarwai, and Tempo. At the beginning of the series, L'Homme Approximative by Tristan Azara by Samira Lelouch is quoted like this. Homme, un peu animal, un peu fleur, un peu métal, un peu homme. Like that with his chanting and lack of punctuation. No full stop, no commas. To give some idea of the wide range of voices presented by our translators, for this simple 3 words, un peu animal, a simple clause, you think, we had 4 different versions: part animal, demi-animal, a little animal in him, and a great animal. There is as much variety in the title of this series of poems as well. And this is where we begin the conversation about how rather than who speaks in the poetry. In the 3rd poem, every vocal key is provided to rise to the challenge from the formal biblical to the everyday. The pleasure for the adjudicator is when there is very little likeness between the translations, which forces me then to get closer to my own language, in addition to living and repeating the original work. In a nutshell, to ask questions. In the first poem, we have an example of this, with the words yn folsej son bwy. There is a tradition of learning so far
ysgolion
in
ysgolion
Wales,
Sul yng Nghymru yn sicr
in Sunday schools, well, I remember it anyway, which coincides beautifully with its use when discussing music in the French language. This is a safe place between our languages, but in the translations we have mute solfa by Adwyniad, solfa without sound by Beryl, soundless sofa by Cathanos, mute sofa by Taro, and soundless music from Tempo. So you see all the different possibilities here. Turning to the second poem, I expected it to be a kind of robust litmus test with a list of repetitive words, which appears like a list of repeating. So I'll read a little in French before coming to the different translations we had in Welsh. Y a-t-il des yeux en ce monde, des oreilles en ce monde, qui soignent pour accueillir en leur âme l'obscénité, 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 l'obscénité. So what words could be used in Welsh? What could convey this repetition in the poem? What word could hold the performance, the questioning and the verbal attack? Tempo uses indecency. Cathanos used sanity. Taroai uses abomination. And this brings us closer to the intention of the original, although Taro creates a pause in the word itself. Then I read Beryl's version, and the language sparkles. She says, she's now quoting the poem in Welsh. And she uses the word ffiaidd, ffiaidd, ffiaidd. Beryl uses an adjective rather than a verb. And she does it once again and comes close to the truth and the drama in the original poem. Also, this version, you wouldn't be aware of it, of course, when you hear it, but Beryl has split the first sentence in two in that quotation, as you need a natural pause in the Welsh language, and there is no punctuation in the original, so by bringing a natural pause here, we keep to the substance and the rationale of the original. So breaking the rules in order to keep to the rules, so to speak. This is just a little cameo of the analytical enjoyment I had as an adjudicator this year. But you can see that there's one translation who stands out. We now come to the collection's title. The most challenging or confident translation of the title gives us chwech coeden yn nos, Cathanos had coeden ffawd, and then Taroai had another, and all those meanings. Well, as our dream de fortune is a temporary raft, which is a makeshift raft. Well, it is something which has been done hurriedly, it won't continue, but it will do, hopefully, but it also has been just brought together, leaving everything in the hands of fate. And the most challenging and confident translation of the title says, chwech coeden yn nos, and this gets under the skin of the vision in the closing words of the poet, and also gives it a very Welsh slant. So it's good, it's wonderful then to give the author of those words the prize, a careful translator who has ventured and who has discovered simple, inspiring phrases which allow Cymru's words to transfer to the Welsh language and for both voices to coexist. Congratulations, Beryl. Thank you very much, Sian. It's lovely to hear such an analytical adjudication. There is a lot to take in there. And of course, we are very grateful to our partners who publish the adjudication as a whole, and also who will publish the winning entries. So over to Pedwar Gwynt to enjoy the adjudication once again, therefore, and to enjoy the translations. So, Beryl, well, Beryl and myself were on the radio earlier on today, talking on Vaughan Roderick's programme, Trosginio, on BBC Wales, at 20 to 1, if you want to listen back to it. But Beryl is Robin Farrar, and Robin can join us this evening. Robin is a language tutor, freelance, and at present, Robin is living in by Rambouillet, by Paris. He's from Mynydd Llantygai by Bangor originally, and was brought up in a bilingual home there. He's got a degree in mathematics, and then Robin has been interested in environmental issues over the years, and then has more recently turned towards languages. Robin is a well-known name as a campaigner with the Welsh Language Society, and has been chairman of the society and the secretary. Since 2018, he's moved to live to France. He's interested in languages, of course, that continues. He's a teacher and a translator by now. And Robin says that he has fine-tuned his skills in French by living life in that language, doing different activities. And of course, Robin talks some Polish as well. And I and Robin have had a few chats in the Basque language by now. So, Sorianak, Robin, congratulations, warm congratulations to you. But before we turn to Robin, we must turn to those who are going to present Robin formally. So may I first ask Geraint Parry from Cymdeithas Cyfieithwyr Cymru to award one of the prizes to Robin. Well, congratulations, Robin, on winning Her Gyfieithu 2021. It was good to Sian saying that this was a strong competition and that Robin's translation was magical. I'm sure we all look forward to hearing Robin reading his poem, his translation soon. May I thank Sian and all of the translators who took part in this competition. We as a society are very glad to sponsor with the fund by now, and I hope we'll continue to do so. And in saying that, it's a pleasure to acknowledge the work of Ellis Wynne, who once again has carved this unique stick from wood which he finds close to his home in Llanystumdwy. It's a beautiful stick. Here, thank you, Ellis. Well, Robin, I don't know how we're going to do this, but here we are. Here it is for you. And of Ellis's work. And I look forward very much to the opportunity to transfer this to you very soon when we meet somewhere in the area, when you'll be back in Wales. Anyhow, congratulations on your feat. Thank you very much. Oh, not Robin. Thank you, Geraint, I'm sorry. And thank you in particular to Cymdeithas Cyfieithu for sponsoring this prize, as Geraint has done over the years, and for Ellis Wynne for his craftsmanship. It's as beautiful as ever this year. Thank you very much. May I turn now to Professor Tudur Hallam from Swansea University, who also wants to present a virtual award to Robin. On behalf of Swansea University, may I congratulate you, Robin, for winning this competition. And also, I'd like to thank Sian for the adjudication. I think that Swansea sponsors this. I come to you from a seminar on the drama, and I'd encourage students to read books of poetry, and that makes me think about J. Gwyn Griffiths and his translation of Aristoteles as Perry Davies in the same field, presenting the classics to the Welsh language. And if we jump to a most recent generation, Rhiannodd Jewel, who started her career in Swansea, now in Aberystwyth, her book is an excellent introduction to this area, mentioning domesticizing, etc. And also, more recently in Welsh literature, she encourages people to consider translating dramas from to Welsh from other minority languages. Here in Swansea, the David Ap William project, not just in the Welsh department, but also in the modern languages department, Derek Conben, Andrew Rockwell. And of course, if we mention J. Wyn Griffiths and classical translations, more recently now, we have to think about Tom Cheeseman and how he and others here have pioneered with literary translations with the help of computers. So I think it suits that Swansea sponsors the competition, and congratulations to you, Robin, on the poem, and I look forward to hearing you read it. Thank you. Thank you very much, Tudur. And the importance, of course, of translating into Welsh from languages apart from English. We always emphasize that. We need, of course, to expand the source so that we can really enrich the language and the way things are expressed. So I'll turn now to Robin, and there's an opportunity for you to say a few words, Robin, after everybody has had the chance to congratulate you. Apart from Samira, she will have an opportunity in a minute. But thank you very much for joining us this evening. We all congratulate you very enthusiastically. So over to you now, Robin, so that you can read your translation and also to say a few words. Congratulations, Robin.
Diolch. Diolch yn fawr.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Dwi'n credu na...
I think, well,
dwi'n credu na i ddechrau trwy darllen y gerdd.
I begin by reading the poem, and then I'll make a few comments afterwards. But thank you very much to you all for your comments, your kind comments. So,
ar ein pennau, mae cysgod vertigol sy'n dirgrynu. Cysgod sy'n clecian ar ein pennau, chwibanu dirgel ar y gwastatir cras ar ein pennau trymlwythog. Ac wrth iddo chwibanu, heb ddod disgwyl iddo chwibanu, a'n pennau'n grwnan, to concrid sy'n rhoi lloches i'n hwyliau, ein hochrau byrbwyll ar y platfform unos, cysawd wedi ollwng, yn niwloedd y synhwyrau. Dwi ti ddim wedi gadael y llongddrylliad llychlyd. Mae'r cysgodion vertigol yn rhedeg ar ymylon y twyni. Dylygaid wedi lapio y tu ôl i'r drych crwm, amddiffyniad ansicr rhag golau uwch fioled. Nodau du ar ymylon y twyni, solffa heb yr un smic. Dwi ti ddim wedi gadael y llongddrylliad llychlyd. Cysgod vertigol wedi blannu yn y gwastatir cras wyt ti'n ei ddyfrio ag addewidion. Yr organ fetal sy'n dirgrynu ar ymylon yr ysgyfaint, ar y platfform concrid lle mae'r alawon yn atseinio'n groes. Amddiffyniad, ansicr ar gyfer totem unos. Yn yr ardd gerig, mae dyn myd yn dawnsio, marnad anhysbys. Bydd dyn byddar yn ôl y sôn, yn hau camau digonedd a chylchoedd fel yr haul. Chafodd o mwy eni i glywed y byd yn mynd ar dan. A oes lle a ddaeth i'r lan ar gopa anghofedig, lle na all y newyddion mwy gyrraedd, lle na allid rhegdybio'r newyddion, lle na allid synhwyro'r newyddion. A oes adwy mewn amser nad yw'n disgwyl hwylio'r golwg ar sgriniau'r mygu. A oes llygaid yn y byd hwn, clustiau yn y byd hwn, a aned a'i heneidiau'n agored i dderbyn pethau ffiaidd, 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 a throi ymaith, a pheidio a throi ymaith. Yr hyn rwy'n ei hoffi am yr Iesu yw ei draed dyfrlliw, a rhai gymdeithion, 3 eirgylch ar 10, a'r eiconau anghofiedig y mynydd athos bach Bwlgaraidd. Dyweda fi ddim am y ffigysbren mae'r Iesu'n ei oleuo, na chwaith am y cerrig yn rheadru. Mae'r rhain debycach i'r Grand Canyon nag i Galilea. Mae traed dyfrlliw cain yr Iesu yn gwneud i mi feddwl am arlunwaith creigiau Tasili. Does yr un droed mor gain ei lluniad ar fynyddoedd hogar. Amlinellau hirfain ydynt, yn rhog, yn union fel Crist, yn rhog, yn rhewedig ag eto'n egniol. Fflachiad mellten ydyw, cyfeiriadaeth heb resymeg iddo, ma'n ymddangos. Canfyddwn yr hyn a ganfyddwn, yn enwedig wrth arsylwi rhywbeth arall. Yr hyn rwy'n ei hoffi am yr astroffisegydd yw ei ragar goelion, pan ddywed efallai, pan ddywed bod ystadegaeth wedi newid ffiseg, ei rhewi, ei gwagio, ei dadgnawdoli. Pan ddywed nad sylwedd yw sylwedd, mae heresi yw amser a gofod. Ein bod ni, bodau dynol, yn cymryd ein hunain ormod o ddifri, wrth gredu ein bod yn fregus, wrth ddyfeisio ein hunain yn rymus, ein bod yn dyfeisio cyfeirnodau, ein bod yn anghofio i ni ei dyfeisio, bod yn rhaid llacio gafael, pan ddywed efallai, ildio'r enaid i dy amheuaeth. Wel, dyna di'n hyfeithiad i.
That is my translation.
Wedyn, dwi'n meddwl mae'r feirniadaeth ydy wedi cyffwrdd dipyn ar y broses
quite a bit on the process
mi oedd na
which I used. There was a mixture of things. Like you mentioned that fiai, which came naturally to me as somebody who speaks French and reads French. That word finds place easily, and other words such as inos in the title. Well, there was quite a bit of thought to go into that. I'd like to thank my partner for some touches where she helped me understand the words and get under the skin of some of the meanings. And the kind of conversations with somebody else, what does this word make you think about? Because the experience of reading the poem, that is what I wanted to translate. One thing, well, I've been mentioned, as Ellen said, I've been working on my French, and I went to drama lessons in Lyon, where I lived a few years ago. And I noticed in doing that remembering text was, well, I had to make sure that I understood the text, and I found that during those sessions, when I forgot a word, the script I had to learn, well, it was because I hadn't understood some nuance or some references. So the process of remembering and perhaps well, that was useful. So that's what I did with the 3 poems. I spent a bit of time with the 3 poems, and I still remember more or less the original. I'll spend a lot of time with the original. That's when I went, that's how I went about it, and then I kind of fine-tuned it. What came back to me, remembering the poem in French and trying to transfer that into the Welsh language. So yes, it's good to see Marta here as well. And I checked with Marta that it was right. Well, we did try I tried the Her Gyfieithu competition 2 years ago now. It came close then, and that was interesting as well, because it was this process of working as two, which was quite a different, really. Matt is a very experienced translator from Welsh into Polish. So it was very interesting, and it gives some informal challenge to us every now and again when we translate from Polish to Welsh. So thank you to Marta for that. But I just want to say, in that context, it's one way of going about it. And what's interesting from seeing the competitions over the last few years is there's a mixture of people, perhaps people like me, who have kind of mastered the language we translate from, and different types of cooperating. And there are many ways of going about things. So yes, that's all I have to say. But thank you once again to you all, and I look forward to seeing the stick. Excellent. Thank you, Robin, and thank you as well for referring to Marta, who's here tonight. Marta, as you said, is an experienced translator from Welsh into Polish, and her translation of Llyfr Glas Nebo appeared last year, the first translation of that book to appear, and by now there are many others either in the pipeline, about to appear. So we are very glad to have Marta here, and Marta has also translated Un Nos Ola Leio and Pump Cynnig I Gymru, and those have been published in Polish as well, directly from the Welsh. We're very glad that you referred to the various methods that we have encouraged to go about translating. Translating isn't an examination, it's not sitting in a room on your own, that lone translator. We encourage people to work with other people on their translations, to co-translate, and also, of course, to use any resources which they can find to facilitate that. So it is a creative process as a whole there. As we bring this part of the evening to an end, my role now is to ask my co-worker, Alexandra Buchler, to introduce Samira Negrush, and of course that's appropriate as Alexandra was the person who brought Samira into connection with exchange and literature across boundaries and those projects. So Alexandra, over to you.
Helen.
Thank you, Ellen.
It's a great pleasure to be asked to introduce Samira, but first of all, I'd like to congratulate Robin. I'm not a Welsh speaker, so I can't appreciate the translation, but it sounded wonderful, and I'm sure Samira enjoyed it. Where do I start introducing Samira? I was thinking when Ellen asked me to introduce her to I was thinking, how long have I known her? And I realized that actually when we met, and this was at a poetry translation workshop, one of the workshops we established in different European countries. This one was in Malta, in the middle of the Mediterranean, and Samira was invited then by our Maltese partners. And she was, I think, 24 years old then, and already a very accomplished poet and translator. So that's how long I've known her. She is a a writer, a poet. She also writes essays. She's a translator, and she trained as a doctor. So she's one of those literary people who abandoned a different profession to dedicate themselves to literature and to arts. She translates from Arabic into French. As Ellen mentioned, she's trilingual. She also, her family actually hails from Kabylie, which is the eastern part of Algeria. And the fact that she's a speaker of Tamazight gives her a particular perspective on linguistic identity in North Africa, and also on the whole question of, I suppose, linguistic colonialism. She sometimes is asked why she writes in a colonial language, and maybe she can say a few words about that. She has, I think, 6 collections of poetry to her name. She has also collaborated extensively with artists, with musicians, and created performances with them. So she's no stranger, not just to translation as we know it, but also translation between art forms. She has been translating Arabic poetry into French, and also she very much promotes Francophone Algerian poetry in France. She has been translated into a number of languages, and I think some 20 languages, the translation of her poetry into English. She has a full book called the Jazz, no, it's not Jazz of Olive Trees, and I actually saw that it's Olive Trees Jazz and other poems. And I saw her translator's name on the list of participants, but I'm not sure whether she's still with us. It's Marilyn Hacker. And I've always wanted to ask her about that apostrophe, Olive Trees Jazz, so maybe we can talk about that as well. So I think that's all I have to say, and I'll ask Samira. She also is no stranger to Wales. She visited, I think, 2 or 3 times. So Samira, over to you, and I suppose you can read a little. You can tell us how you feel about being translated into Welsh.
Diolch, Alexandra. It's the only word I can remember. This is from a school I visited 2 years ago, near, not very far from Aberystwyth, but I can't remember the name of the city. First of all, I would like to congratulate you, Robin. Thank you for your translation. I'm very happy to be able to listen to these poems in Welsh. Thanks also, Elin, to Sean, and to everyone who have organized the competition. I mean, it's very moving to be translated in any language, and especially when you know the place, you know the country, you know the people. And I can say I have quite few friends there. I visited families. I have been invited to houses. I visited some places with Ned, but also with Sally Baker. I visited some of the places where R.S. Thomas lived, and that trip was with the Syrian poet Golan Haji. So from my 2 visits in Wales, I remember an image. Maybe it will explain why I feel so moved by all this experience. It's a bus I took from Aberystwyth to Bangor. We had an event with Zoe Sculding at that time. I think it was in 2015. And I was alone in that bus. while with the other friends and colleagues and scholars and students and translators, we could speak English and a bit of French and a bit of something. In that bus, it was only Welsh. And even though it was my first visit, I noticed that the language was changing a little bit from Aberystwyth to Bangor. And then I asked some people, possibly Zoe and other friends of Zoe, and they explained that even in the Welsh language, you could have very little accents or very different sounds. I can say that if I hear Welsh in London, for example, I would recognize it, but sure that now I get something from the sound of this language. And as a Berber speaking person, I understand how important it is to still speak a language and give this language the possibility to grow and not to stay only in the family circle, and give it the possibility to be the horizon for its people, but also for other people. These days we have a lot of discussions and sometimes violent discussions about identity, and you find yourself, when you speak about what is important for you, your language, your land, that is sacred for some people. And I think nature is a bit sacred for Welsh people, as the land is sacred for some native people in Latin America, in North America also. So I always think that we forget the main issue is that wanting something from us to survive and to live and to grow isn't against the other. And how do we make the bridge? How do we build the bridge together to get to that point where the other understands that this intimate geography, the geography of R.S. Thomas, who wrote in English, only in English, I think, the geography of Mulud Firaun, who is from a village close to my family's village and who wrote only in French and who has killed by the OAS and who struggled for Algerian independence, how me writing in French, which is not Arabic and not Berber, how do we contribute to build this bridge and to explain that this intimate geography, the language, the land, but also the other languages we use, the languages we bring in our language, our native language, and the language we use to speak to who we are from the inside, is important in building this bridge. I can say that I have learned a lot from my 2 trips to Wales. We don't have enough time to go around all these little stories, but I would like really to thank you for having chosen my poems for this competition. Thank you for all the memories we have together. And yes, I hope that the aridity, the desert, the questions that are inside these poems will somehow travel to Welsh people and open some new horizons to them. Thank you. Diolch.
Diolch yn fawr iawn i ti, Samira. Diolch yn fawr iawn i ti am...
Thank you very much to you, Samira, and for being so willing to offer us your work to set it for the Her Gyfieithu competition. And also, as you can see, we have had great benefits from hearing the adjudication and the winning poem, and also all the comments of the contributors tonight to what we've created together in Her Gyfieithu 2021. And as I said, there's an opportunity to read the adjudication again and to read the poems and the translations on the site of O'r Pedwar Gwynt. Well, thank you very much to everybody who's taken part in this first part of the evening, but also we are on the threshold of the translation day tomorrow, and it's an important date with Pen Rhyngwladol, International Pen. So we want to turn a bit of our attention tonight to celebrating that, well, the centenary really of Pen International throughout the world, and to acknowledge as well that that English Pen was the first centre of all to be established. But it's good as well to be able to say that Pen Catalonia or Pen Català was one of the first centres as well to follow, well, to be created back in the 1920s of the last century. So it's not just a very strong, well-known language which has been involved with Pen, but also a language which situation is similar to our language and many others, of course, across the country. I'm talking about Catalan, and she as well played an important part in the start of Pen. So can I turn now to the President of Pen Cymru to say a word, Menna Elfyn, to say a few words and to open the part of the evening which refers to the centenary. Over to you, Menna. Thank you very much, Ellen, and hello, everybody. Thank you for an excellent evening. I use that word, and I mean it, but thank you for this evening and for that ability to listen and to hear languages. Gwyn Thomas has a book with a title, Enw'r Gair, naming the word. And that's what we do quite often as writers, and we try and deepen experiences and people's imagination through that. As Ellen said, we are not celebrating. Celebrating is unfortunate, but we are noting that 100 years of International Pen, and I feel honoured that I am president of not only a society, but a movement, because there's something continuous about it. And, you know, we know that we need to be watchful about the rights of authors to express themselves without any restrictions, and that's very important. So the Congress has just been held. I went to the Congress on the second year to Quebec, and there was a lot of excitement there to feel. I was Uganda and then Vietnam, and then there was Wales. And I felt that we were part of something more than just us, that we shared principles which were common to us all as writers and authors and as readers. There is a saying, tyrants fear writers, but they fear readers more. And that reminds us of the importance of Pen, not only as a body for writers, but as a body which shows how important it is with all the people who support us and read and blog, etc. So looking forward to the coming year, there are plans where Pen Cymru, hopefully, will do more and more and will publish more. And what's extremely good to see, after 6 years perhaps of existence, there are people now coming, wanting to join. And it has been started off quite small. But, you know, the word has spread, and an evening such as tonight, Her Gyfieithu is one of those things which do draw attention to it, and does announce the importance of Her Gyfieithu, which, and it is Her Gyfieithu means challenge, of course, and it is a challenge from day to day. Principles are an important matter, and I'm not going to say much more. I know there are videos to be shown which outline everything which PEN has achieved or is achieving, but as I said, it's an ongoing thing, something which we feel very strongly about, but very happy to be a part of a movement which campaigns for authors and writers. So there we are. Thank you. Thank you, Menna. Yes, those important principles of freedom of expressions, defending authors, celebrating literature, and of course, ensuring the freedom of expression to authors in all parts of the world and all kinds of writers as well. Can we now turn to one of the first videos which we have this evening, a video by Sally Baker. Sally is with us here, but she has recorded her own video beforehand. So we'll see that now. Well, the PEN is important as an international movement which for 100 years has brought writers across the world together to celebrate literature and to defend freedom of expression. Writers in jail or who are threatened, and it defends as well linguistic rights. In 2014, there were PEN centres in England, Scotland and Ireland, but not in Wales. Writers who wanted to support PEN joined English PEN. PEN Cymru had been established in the 1950s and again in the 1990s with Ned Thomas behind this venture, but it didn't prosper. There were many institutions and societies for writers in Wales at the time, and very few writers worked on an international stage.
In 2014, a number of us felt that the climate had changed, and there was a need and demand for a Welsh PEN Cymru and a real wish from Welsh writers to be more involved on the global stage. It seemed nonsensical that Wales, a bilingual country with considerable experience and expertise in obtaining and maintaining linguistic rights, should not have its own PEN centre. It would have a lot to offer. During that spring and summer, PEN meetings were organised at different literary festivals throughout Wales, and it became obvious very quickly that there was an appetite for this new organisation. There were now literary organisations in Wales, such as Mercator, Literature Across Frontiers, Wales Literature Exchange, who were working extremely successfully internationally and who had created a climate of international literary exchange. Welsh writers were increasingly becoming a part of that scene, and Wales was at the forefront of translation and writer exchange projects. So in the autumn of that year, I attended the PEN International Congress in Kyrgyzstan, and Wales PEN Cymru was accepted as an official PEN organisation. Menna Elfyn became its president, Owen Shears and Fleer Davies its chairs, and a management board was set up. There have been so many Wales PEN Cymru events, projects and initiatives since those early days. We have organised projects to support refugees, asylum seekers and other writers in exile in Wales. We've put on events which showcase and translate the work and plight of writers in prison in other countries throughout the world, and we have written to them. A memorable project worked with the Kurdish community in Newport to promote the Kurdish language in Wales, and a project with Kurdish women, which focused on Kurdish traditional songs, culminated in a memorable, sold-out, multilingual event in Chapter, Cardiff. Translation, of course, too, has always been at the centre of Wales Pen Cymru's activity. I can't name all those people who have contributed to giving Wales Pen Cymru the status and recognition that the organisation has in Wales now, but this is an opportunity at least to say thank you to them on behalf of all those who in Wales today are now able to be a part of the international pen community. Wales Pen Cymru is an organisation that was built on generosity and continues in its 7th year in the same vein, with our communal belief in and commitment to freedom of speech and linguistic rights.
Diolch yn fawr iawn I Sally Baker.
Thank you very much to Sally Baker for that video. And we'll turn now to the video by Ned Thomas. And as Sally mentioned, Ned was a part of an attempt to establish PEN a few decades ago in the 80s and 90s by now. And this year as well is 25 years since the Declaration of Language Rights came into being. And Ned was part of that work, which was led by PEN Catalonia. So here we are, the video with Ned to tell us the story. There is a long history to the idea of having a declaration of language rights on the same pattern as the United Nations Declarations of Human Rights. But I'll begin in 1994, when a team was established that would prepare the texts and review it 12 times before it was accepted by a big conference held in Barcelona in June 1996, which was a quarter of a century ago. The two main catalysts to the declaration and the conference were the Translation and Linguistic Rights Committee of PEN International and CMN institution in Barcelona, which has an international mission to help minorities. To tell you the truth, the Catalans were the main instigators within PEN as well, and their influence within that body dates back to 1922, which is from the start almost. I'm glad to have the opportunity to pay tribute to the Catalan movements at the time, not only for their practical support, but also for their intellectual and strategic guidance for us, the smaller minorities. Around 40 experts contributed material for the declaration, but it was a much smaller group who worked for very many days, stitching it all together and editing it. The language of the discussions were what I called Interromanica, which was a mixture of French, Spanish, Italian and Catalan. Perhaps you'll ask, why was I there? As you heard by Sally Baker, there was a predecessor to the present PEN Cymru, and during the drafting of the declaration, I was the president. Therefore, PEN Cymru can claim to have played a role in the declaration, although to tell you the truth, I was wearing several hats at the time, and my main role was on the drafting committee as an expert on the press and the media in minority languages. That was the expertise of the Mercator Centre in Aberystwyth, and within the Mercator network, it was financed by the European Union. CMN in Barcelona was one of the partners in the network. And even before the days of Mercator, I had worked with its director, Argimi, in the early days of the Bureau for the European Bureau for Lesser Languages. And we work together presenting evidence and lobbying the Council of Europe at the beginning of the 90s, at the time of drawing up the European Charter for Regional and Minority Languages. That charter made us consider what was realistic to ask the states to allow the minorities. We wanted the Universal Declaration to be more ambitious and begin from the requirements of the minorities. We also want to take advantage of the momentum for discussing the problems of minorities following the bloody wars on the fringes of the European Union when Yugoslavia disappeared in 1991-1992. Because of this background, our committee tended to prioritise areas that were important in the European context, that is, education and the media in the native language, and also language acts. That there was a PEN's worldwide network had helped to counterbalance that to a degree. I remember us having to have a rethink when we heard by a representative of the people from the hills of Vietnam, nothing against your proposals, but can we first of all have somebody to form an alphabet in our language? And then a spokesman on behalf of one of the people in the Amazon who said, you don't need to be concerned about education. We arrange that within the family. If you really want to promote our languages, prepare a mobile telephone system so that our hunters who are in the forests can talk with their families. Well, things like that made us change our perspective. After the June 1996 conference, there was enough left to do to promote the declaration and to gather famous supporters, which included Nelson Mandela, the Dalai Lama, Nujiva Theong and Seamus Heaney. The work continued over the years, and the work continues. In the case of minorities, it never ends, as Elin Harv knows better than anybody. But in the evening, during the 1996 conference, there was the opportunity to relax for some time. And I remember feeling something close to euphoria amidst the unanimous diversity of the crowd which had gathered from four corners of the earth. One evening, we had a concert called, in Catalanic, the translation is Blue Sea Bridge. It was a production of songs composed by the Catalan singer Lluís Llach, each one in the musical style of one of the peoples living around the Mediterranean, and the sea was a bridge rather than a barrier between them, as happens today. Another evening, a dance was organised under the stars, and the stars that optimistic evening appeared to shine brighter than usual to me. Thank you very much indeed, Ned, for that story. It's important that we record how we developed to create the PEN centres, or the PEN centre we have today in Wales. And there is campaigning for the rights of authors is core, of course, to the vision and the activities of PEN. Later on this evening at 7 o'clock, Eva Raplin will be taking part in an event between Wales PEN Cymru, PEN Meheiri and Scottish PEN to draw attention to the Farrar, an author and poet who's suffering because he's persecuted in India. And we will give you the link to join that event in the chat soon. But we can't exist as a PEN centre and as parts of an international movement unless we have a strong basis of membership here in Wales, and many supporters and members of PEN have recorded things, short little clips, which we are going to show you now to encourage people to join, whatever your medium is, when you write, whether you're a journalist, a blogger, an author, a translator, poet, whatever. There's an opportunity for all to play their parts and become a member of a movement which withholds those values, which is so important in our world today. So we'll have some of the membership video, please. Manon. I am Menna Elfyn. I'm the president of Wales Pen Cymru, and the movement is a worldwide movement which works and stands for authors throughout the whole world who are imprisoned or persecuted for what they write about. And I feel as an author that our place is to make sure that their voices are not silenced. Good morning, I'm Eric.
I've been a member of Wales Pen Cymru for many years now, and since I joined Wales Pen Cymru, to be honest with you, they've been very active in terms of my career development. From when I first met Sally Baker in at the Hay Festival, to touring cricket, Makinclet, meeting the national poet of Wales just outside Palace Springs. You know, it's been wonderful, and I am forever grateful to be part of these wonderful creatives. And long may the network continue to grow. Eric Dewey.
I am Eric. Hello, I'm Elined, and I'm a proud member of Wales Pen Cymru. And I'm a member because I want to be part of an international movement which campaigns to defend authors and journalists throughout the world.
I joined Wales Pen Cymru because I'm an internationalist and I fully support its mission to sustain, help, and promote freedom of speech around the world.
Hello, I'm Sian Northy. I'm a member of Pen Cymru because I'm lucky that I'm living somewhere where I can write whatever I want without any interference by the state. But I feel that we all need to realise how brittle that freedom is and how easy it would be for us to lose it.
I support Wales Pen Cymru because everyone should enjoy the freedom to write and express themselves that we're so fortunate to have in our country.
I'm Menna Elfyn, the president of Pen Cymru, and the movement, which is a worldwide movement, works for and stands for authors throughout the whole world who are imprisoned or who are persecuted for their writing. And I feel as an author that our place is to make sure that their voices are not silenced. Make a difference.
Join today and make that link. Put new petrol in your ink.
I'm Elined and I'm a member of Wales Pen Cymru.
I'm Elined and I'm a proud member of Wales Pen Cymru.
And I'm a member because I want to be part of an international organisation that campaigns to protect the rights of writers and journalists all over the world.
For me, Pen is almost a duty for a writer. I joined Pen nearly 40 years ago, and so when Wales Pen Cymru started, it was a no-brainer for me to be in at the start and to try to make sure that that duty a writer has to fellow writers around the world was carried on through Wales, where I lived for so long. It's the most important organisation, has been for 100 years, for standing up for freedom of expression and for the rights, not only of writers, but all those who rely on our writing for their ideas. And I feel that not only can Pen be one of the great forces in literature in Wales, it can also show what Wales can do in the world in its support for people and countries which are having a hard time.
Diolch yn fawr iawn.
Thank you very much to all the members for those videos and spread the message. Our evening has come to an end. May I thank everybody who's taken part. Thank you in particular to Samira for joining us, and thank you as well to Sian for her adjudication, and of course to Robin for his winning translation, which was excellent, and we look forward to reading it in more detail in O'r Pedwar Gwynt. Thank you to all our partners for putting the evening together, and I've just put in the chat there, as there's a 20-minute break now before we have the opportunity to join a joint event with Pen y Heron and Scottish Pen, an event to support Farrar, and Ifor ap Glyn will be representing Wales Pen Cymru in that event and reading some of the poems, his poems in a Welsh translation by Ifor. I understand that members of Farrar's family will be there as well. So a little bit of a break now before we go on to the next event in Wales Pen Cymru. Thank you very much to everybody for taking part. Thank you in particular to Manon for supporting all the technical work and organising behind the scenes. Thank you in particular, and also to Angharad for assisting this time. And it is wonderful to see so many well-known faces and less-known faces which have come together tonight. And this event is to be listened to and seen on Facebook, and we will be putting parts of the event online on YouTube, etc., for your convenience. So that is the end of the evening for now, and thank you all for your company and for your support.
Diolch.